This is verse 25 of the 12th chapter, the Gospel of John. We have a conversation going on which was precipitated when certain Greeks asked to be issued or ushered into the presence of Jesus, and Jesus seems to give a somewhat inapposite response, although ultimately it will be very much to the point. But Jesus begins to talk about the fact that a seed needs to be planted in the ground, and if it does, then it will in effect die. It'll decay, of course. But out of that decaying seed comes life. And Jesus obviously paralleling the situation of a seed to himself, that he will have to, in a sense, die and be buried and so on. But it's in that process that great life will come out of it. So expansive that Jesus will ultimately be reaching the discussion about it reaches out to the Gentiles, including people such as these Greeks who have launched this conversation in the first place. And in connection with the fact that a seed must die, which Jesus first of all applies to himself, he also in some secondary sense applies it to others as well, and that's what we have in this verse. So ho, the masculine singular nominative, the, and then philone. This is a participle. It's the present active participle, masculine singular nominative, and so we would translate it he who. Literally, it's the loving. This is from phileo, to love. So the loving one. So far it's what we have. Then we add to this the accusative, so it's the direct object of the verb love. Tain sukein, the soul. This is the feminine noun, suke, soul. Accusative, singular. And then autu, the possessive pronoun, and the genitive, masculine, singular. So the loving the soul of him, one. In other words, the one who loves his soul. And then a very strong word, apolue. This is from apoluo. It means to destroy. This is the third person singular, present active indicative. So the one who loves his soul destroys it. The loving of one's soul is going to be that which leads ultimately to its destruction. Not exactly an intuition that we would normally draw, but certainly it's consistent with what we hear elsewhere in the New Testament. Jesus says as much at the Caesarea Philippi Confession and elsewhere. And then in stark contrast, we have kai, the connective, ho, mison. Same construction, so philone is a participle, and mison is also, miseo means to hate. And so the hating, then same thing, tain sukein autu, the hating the soul of him, in contrast to the first phrase. And then Jesus adds the clarifying, qualifying statement in preposition, takes the dative, to cosmo, the dative article here, masculine, singular, and cosmo, the word cosmos, which means world. And this is also the dative singular, of course. So in the world, and then the demonstrative pronoun this. So in the world, this one, or in this world, which qualifies it, the hating his soul in this world, as if to say in attachment to this world, not hating one's soul as such, but hating it in connection with a sort of unhealthy attachment to this world. So he hates it in that sense. Then ace, preposition, takes the accusative, zoane, ionion, so into life eternal. Phulogze, this is the future, third person singular, future active indicative of phulasso. Phulasso is a word that means to guard, really. It's the kind of word that originally had to do with guarding the gates of a city or guarding a prison, something like that. But it came to mean to simply keep it, that is, to keep it safe. And that's the notion here, keeps it or will keep, outain it, safe. The outain, the feminine pronoun, of course, going back to sukein. And so the idea, the hating the soul of him one, the loving the soul of him one, destroys it. The one who loves his soul, who loves his life, in other words, is going to destroy it. But the one who is willing to detach himself from it in terms of its connections to this world is going to, in fact, save it, keep it into life eternal.